The Buffalo Bills trade for wide receiver Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns today. We are going to discuss all of that and much more on this episode of Circling the Wagons.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Pro Football Hall of Famer and former Buffalo Bill Andre Reed. You're listening to Nate and the Fellas on Circle the Wagons podcast. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo. Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo. The Bills make me wanna shout.
Bills Mafia, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Circling the Wagons, a Buffalo Bills fan podcast. I am your host tonight. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this special edition episode of Circling the Wagons, where we're going to discuss the latest, greatest news for the Buffalo Bills. They have traded for wide receiver Amari Cooper and a 6th-round pick for the Browns, getting our 3rd-round pick in 2025 and a 7th-round pick in 2026. A lot of exciting stuff to discuss. I'm joined by my co-host, John, for this episode. John, just last night, the Bills beat the Jets 23-20 in New Jersey to go to 4-2. And today, within 16 hours of that win, we're already talking about the Buffalo Bills trading for the best receiver they currently have on the roster. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I am so amped up right now. Like just listening to the Andre Reed intro, the shout song. I'm doing so good. So it was a rough game, like from especially referee standpoint on both sides of the ball last night. But love the win. Stranglehold on the AFC East. I know it's early, but you know, and then you see like earlier in the day, Davante Adams gets traded to the Jets, and it's like, I guess too little, too late, and he's familiar with the receiver, whatever. And then later on, you see the Amari Cooper trade, and it's like, oh, an affordable receiver who's probably just as good. He's 2 years younger. This is good. Like, and like you said, he's probably the best receiver right now they have, technically. Yeah, right? He's immediate upgrade. I don't want to like crap on who they have right now. I do like Keon. Everybody loves Shakir. I don't think they've been using Curtis Samuel correctly, but it's another discussion. But this helps. They've obviously have had issues at receiver still, and even with drops, I think it's been better than the last couple of years. But you know, Gabe Davis, there was high hopes, but he had drops, and Diggs towards the end was having drops also. So, but no, I'm pumped. 4-2, right in the thick of things. Stranglehold on the division. They upgraded receiver. Like, it's amazing, right?
If you were to look at the Bills' biggest needs on the team, minus kicker, we're not going to talk about kicker right now at this point, but you'd say maybe a little bit of pass rush or something on the defensive line, maybe a little bit, but biggest need by far was wide receiver. And I think that Brandon Beane went into this season thinking, okay, well, we got Curtis Samuel, we got Khalil Shakir, we have Mac Hollins, we have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, we have the rookie Keon Coleman, which we like a lot. I think we can get by with those weapons, and that doesn't even include Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. I think we can get by with those weapons, and I think they did for the first 3 weeks until they started to play better teams. Enough of their offense got put on tape, and teams started figuring them out. And then all of a sudden, all of these flaws that the Bills had really kind of came to the surface, and they realized they really don't have. And the Chiefs got away with it last season because they had an elite defense. The Bills don't have an elite defense this year. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's a pretty darn good defense considering all the injuries, but it is not an elite defense. I think this was by far their biggest trade, their biggest need on the team, and they trade for it. And we're going to talk about the trade value in a minute, but I think that it was one of those things where, Bills Mafia was clamoring for a move. We wanted Davante Adams or Amari Cooper or Jacoby Myers or something like that. And this came around, and like you said, I'm thrilled about it. It just goes to show you all the folks that were saying, there goes, the Bills wasting another year of Josh Allen's prime. And this is proof that Brandon Beane won't do that. He had a lot of trade capital, and luckily he finally started to use it. And I like this. I like this trade a lot. John, what'd you think about the trade value for it? We see it on the screen right now. The Bills got Amari Cooper and a 6th-round pick next year, but they gave up a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick, a 3rd-round pick next year, and a 7th-round pick in 2026, which to me is like almost nothing, But what were your thoughts on the actual trade value for giving it up? I know you like the player, but what do you like what the Bills gave up?
I think it's good. You always want to squeeze as much as you can. The second I heard about the trade, I'm like, I hope it's like a 4th. But no, a 3rd is fine. I mean, Devontae Adams got a 3rd with the potential to be a 2nd rounder, and he's 2 years older. I'm not sure. I didn't look up with the Adams, like how many years he has left on his contract, like with the Jets. But I think for Cooper's case, it's just this year, right? I think his contract runs out after this year, right?
No, I think they have him for one more season.
Oh, do they? Okay.
I'm gonna double check that right now, but I know that the Browns had eat a lot of that contract in 2025.
Mhm.
And they
That's
offset a lot of
right.
that contract in the offseason to trade for him.
Yeah, I think they had an option. Maybe an option to keep him longer. Maybe the Bills inherited that. I'm not sure. But I know that in the Raiders case, I think they were less
Good
willing to
question. I'm
eat
looking that up right now, and it looks
contracts.
like the 2025.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was voided right now, I believe. I'll get that information though. I had read somewhere that the Browns ate it, but I mean, what do you think? So without knowing that right now, I mean, a 3rd-round pick, the Bills still have a 1st, 2 seconds next year. I think that's one of the reasons why Brandon Beane thought that he could
Yeah.
swing a trade like
Well,
this
think
for a
about
3rd-round
it
pick,
this way.
and
Like, let's say it is a 1-year rental, 3rd-round pick. The Texans, like with the Diggs contract, they basically have a 1-year rental for a 2nd-round pick. So it's better, right?
yeah, definitely. They get Cooper for $806,000 because the Browns converted $18.79 million of Amari Cooper's $20 million salary to a signing bonus back in March.
Yeah. So cap-wise,
So
this is awesome.
yeah, that's one of the reasons why the Bills could get away with it, is because they did so much. So then the Bills also got some cap space relief from the release of Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah.
With that, Browns ended up paying Amari Cooper $19.2 million in cash this season for 6 games of work, essentially buying themselves a 3rd-round draft pick in the process. Yep, that's from Spot Track.
Yeah, that's what we did with Diggs, right? Same thing. More money and a higher draft pick.
Mm-hmm. But for right now, it looks like a 1-year rental. Just not to say that he is 30 years old, and he will be 31 next season when the season starts. So it's not like they can't, swing a trade or like, maybe keep him around for another season or 2 if they like him. But I mean, it's not like this is his first contract. It's not like he's 27 years old or 26 years old. This guy's got a little bit of age, but he's also much more proven than any other receiver on the Bills roster since Stephon Diggs. If you look at his stats from his season, even in Oakland, going into Dallas, I mean, last year he had 1,250 yards receiving in 2023. I mean, the guy and that's with Joe Flacco and Deshaun Watson as his quarterbacks. I mean, that was his best season ever at age 29. So to say that this guy's like, even close to the end of his career, it doesn't appear that way.
Yeah, I forget that he was drafted by Oakland, right?
Yeah, I know. I forgot he was drafted by Oakland. I was like, I know he was
Like,
traded to
he was
the
with
Cowboys,
Dallas. Yeah.
exactly. And he was
And
with some
Dallas
other team
sucks.
before that.
Look how bad Dallas is. Look at that against Detroit. Terrible.
Oh yeah, awful.
Shout out to Tyler.
So the Bills, Amari Cooper had 2 1,000-yard back-to-back seasons with the Cleveland Browns in 2022 and 2023. He had 1,000-yard seasons in Dallas from 2019 and 2020. He had them in his rookie season in Oakland, and then 2 other seasons in Oakland. So out of his 10 seasons now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seasons. He's had 1,000 yards receiving in every one but 2. So 7 out of 9 seasons he has. I mean, how do you? And that's with Dak Prescott as his quarterback, whoever they had in Oakland at the time. I mean, God knows who it could have been. Jason Campbell, I have no idea. He gets the best quarterback he's potentially ever had as a member of the Buffalo Bills. I mean, how do you not like that? The guy's got deep threat ability. In 2023, his average depth of target, his air yards was number 1 in the NFL. His average target distance was 13th in the NFL. He was number 1 in deep targets. So, I mean, if you're looking for a guy that, can make contested catches, he's a red zone threat. He's a threat on third down to make the conversion. And, he's a speedster and he's a deep threat. I mean, you got it finally. So now you take a little bit less pressure off of Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, the rookie, and now the Bills can finally, field an offense that you kind of have to watch out for one of the guys on,
Yeah, super exciting. I mean, it was still the biggest need on offense. You can make a case maybe safety on defense, but you're still developing Cole Bishop. I'm pretty high on him still. They've had a lot of injuries on defense too, and the defense is still playing great. And then when you get guys back, Bernard's first game back interception, Taron Johnson's first game back interception. Like these guys are amazing. I love it. Playoff run, maybe Milano will be back. Let's kicker, right?
We don't even have Von Miller back, really. I mean, this isn't a full team. You're talking about Von Miller coming back, Matt Milano coming back. Yeah, we just got Taron Johnson, Terrell Bernard, like you said. I mean, there's 2 starters right there. They're going to make a huge difference on defense. And now we finally have the weapon. Now, John, were you going to do? I know you weren't there for the Wall of Fame, Wall of Shame discussion last night. Were you just going to talk Tyler Bass and Wall of Shame?
Well, yeah, he's the obvious choice. I mean, they could just trade Bass for Zerline straight up, right? At least Zerline could hit the post.
They could do what?
Zerline? Trade Bass for Zerline? I mean, Zerline
would you really take that?
He could at least hit the post.
That's fair. It has gotten ugly watching Tyler Bass. But in his defense, he did hit the game-winning field goal, right?
Technically. But no, I think I'm officially done with Bass. The only other thing I put on the Wall of Shame is the refs. They're bad for both teams. It's just flags all day long, just for the heck of it. Sometimes I don't think one team was necessarily favored more than the other in that respect. I think it was both. Sometimes the teams did, were bad, but there are a lot of times for both teams where they're throwing flags for what reason? When Aaron Rodgers was sacked by Evanescence on that play, that it was ridiculous. There was a pass interference play against Buffalo that was ridiculous. It went both ways. It was terrible.
It went both ways, but it was definitely tilted more towards the Bills, I feel. And I try to be as completely impartial as I can when it comes to that stuff. And there were definitely calls against the Jets that shouldn't have been called, but it appeared to be more slant towards the Bills. I'd say 5-3, penalties where you're just like, what? And then there's 3 on the Jets. You're like, that shouldn't have been called. I wouldn't have called that one. I'd have let them play, but
it was bad
all around.
But Bass was even worse than that. At this point, I'm done. I'm done with him.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, isn't it? When he signed the contract, he had a great season before 2023.
You look at his career, he's nailing all those 50-yarders. I don't know what happened. And I know that you can go through things as a kicker and have your ups and downs, but
we all go through things, right?
He's kicking that 20-something yarder, his last field goal there, and I'm like, maybe you should go for it.
Oh yeah, we all thought that. Go for 2, or not go for 2. Just go for it. It's 4th and 13. Who cares? Just go for it. And I don't want to pile on Tyler Bass because it's one of those things where we're all human, right? None of us are perfect. We've all had slumps in life or work or whatever.
No,
Has taken,
no, I guess
but not
no,
10
not like
months
as a
long of it.
person, but just like, at some point you have to try to better yourself at the position. But like you mentioned, they extended him. They can't afford the dead cap. Like the only way around it is to, like, if you wanted to go that route, is to like bring a guy up through the practice squad and end up having Bass just be inactive or something. But I don't know.
I can't, the only, yeah, it's basically what you're saying is the only way to get around that and try out guys during the season. And unless somebody somehow gets released, or maybe they trade for a kicker, for a low round pick or something. And they trade. I mean, who would want to take on Bass though in that contract at this point? At the
Well, that
time, I
yeah,
liked the contract. I thought it was good, but he was also playing his best football. And then at some point last season, he just lost all of his swagger and he got the yips and he really hasn't recovered. Like I said, it's been 10 months. And if you can't get it back within 10 months, I can understand, the season ended poorly. You have time over the off season to really think about it and readjust, but he didn't. Why would you ever think that he would get back to his 2022 form? What evidence do you have at this point?
and the other part of it is how many out there in free agency are better. Maybe no one. I don't know.
Maybe no one. I don't know. That's a great question.
But
That's what the scouting staff's for, John. It's not for us to decide as podcast hosts. It's just, speculate on, it's for the scouts to decide because, there's not a lot of great kickers out there. There are some really good ones, but I'd say Tyler Bass is bottom third at this point, but there's worse kickers than him. I mean, we saw Greg Zerline last night. I mean, if you were a Jets fan, you'd be punching the TV at how bad he was. But like you said, at least he hit the crossbar, and Tyler Bass is just hitting knuckleballs into the
yeah,
stands. I mean, they're not even like, oh, he just barely missed, like, and it was a good kick. It was just like, how did you kick that with the back of your foot?
yeah. I mean, look at fantasy football. Like you typically, if you're playing kickers, you pick a team that scores a lot of points, and the Bills have scored a lot of points. They have the best point differential in the AFC right now. But Tyler Bass is out there on waivers because he hasn't been any good.
Yeah, for good reason. Because he doesn't get points. He doesn't get the extra points, especially if you're in a league that has negative points for missed extra points. He is killing you right now. He's got at least 2 or 3 of those this season alone. Yeah, John, would you say the Bills aren't a team that's completely unflawed? We mentioned Matt Milano and Von Miller, injury and suspension. The Bills now acquiring Amari Cooper. We have no idea how the chemistry is going to be between Amari and Josh. I don't suspect they'll be making an SI Kids magazine edition with him and Amari Cooper on the front page of the BFFs edition. I don't think that's the case. But I mean, this team isn't completely unflawed. Like there's still some issues. Like I would put, I think they were a lot better this game. I think that's one of the reasons why Josh Allen played so well is the offensive line. I think the offensive line did a much better job this week for Ray Davis making holes and, protecting Josh Allen. Josh Allen was 19 for 25 passing.
Oh,
And the Bills' run game got going. So I liked with the offensive line, but I think the Bills go as the offensive line goes, and now they get some help at wide receiver. So I think that this team is still pretty dangerous, all the way across. I don't think it's unflawed. I don't think this is a perfect team, but now they went from like, hey, let's hope we make the playoffs and win a game or so, to like, hey, if things fall right in the back end of the schedule, which is much easier than the first 7-8 games of the schedule. Now we're talking like get hot at the right time and make a run deep in the postseason, and you could make a splash, especially with the way that the Chiefs have been struggling. What team in the AFC truly scares you? I mean, besides the teams have already beaten us, but I mean, but besides the Ravens, maybe just because it was a 35-10 victory, it was a beat down there. I mean, who really scares you in the AFC besides them and potential Texans matchup again?
Ravens, Texans, Chiefs.
But you play that team, you
Just
play
like
that team again.
always, right? Maybe less so the Bengals than in recent years.
Steelers a little bit, I guess, maybe.
No, Steelers still don't scare me. No, I think it's those three. The Bengals don't scare me anymore. I would say just the Ravens, Chiefs, and Texans. I mean, it's those three. You have to get through those.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Just thinking about this trade, and one of the reasons why I think it was so important that they made this trade when they did is that, looking back at last night's game and the fact that, the Jets' defensive backfield was like completely injury riddled last night, right? Like they lost, one of their starting corners, like two of their safeties in that game. Like they just lost a bunch of players. The Bills still could not seem to take advantage of those losses in the middle of the game. If that was the Bills and they lost, like let's say Rasul Douglas or something, or Christian Benford, and the other team, in this case Aaron Rodgers, decide to pick on Kyer Elam, like I think they would have a pretty good job doing that. I think that they would have some success doing that, and you'd be like, oh, like what can you do? The Bills had that happen, and they still could not take advantage of those injuries. And those were significant injuries to good players. So after that, and I'm like, Josh Allen, threw for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Like it was an efficient night. If Josh had better weapons, I think he completely, dismantles that secondary for the Jets with all of the losses they had to starters. I think they do that. And I think that, good on Beane for doing that and, seeing that. And I'm sure he's probably been trying to work on it for a few weeks. So it's not like just like, oh, it's not just like Rex Ryan and Doug Whaley on a yacht, on Terry Bigelow's yacht, being like, oh, here's a trade offer for LaShawn McCoy. Maybe we'll do that. Like they're actually like Beane's actually making calls and trying to make things happen. So, I mean, credit to that, and credit to not just be like, well, we're 4-2, we'll be fine.
No, yeah, always trying to get better. I love it. Hey, speaking of Josh Allen, there's like the statistics keep coming here. Like 6 games into the season, 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Pretty amazing, right? He only needs one more rushing touchdown to tie O.J. Simpson for second all-time Bills
Wow.
rushing touchdowns. Like it's
Wow.
ridiculous.
That's insane. That's an insane stat. He is this close to having as many rushing touchdowns as OJ. He's going to surpass it
Yeah, and he's
this
probably gonna
season,
get
right?
Thurman Thomas too. He's gonna have the most passing and rushing touchdowns in Bills history by the end of his career. Ridiculous.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I just wanted to show you some advanced stats from Amari Cooper. So I'm going to go to last season where he had 1,250 yards, his best season yardage wise in the NFL. I don't really pay attention to targets and target share and snap share and whatever. It is interesting to say, though, out of all of his 531 routes run, or his snaps, I should say, almost 18%. So, like, he has that versatility. That is not his strength. It's not where he plays most of his snaps, but they can move him in if they need to take advantage of a matchup. They can do that. It felt like Stephon Diggs didn't really want to do that, or he wasn't asked to do that a ton. I mentioned air yards earlier. He was 7th in the NFL last year in air yards, share, 13th in average depth of target, ADOT at 14.2 yards, 6th in deep targets. Is this the receiver that we always wanted Stephon Diggs to be? Right? Like, would it be crazy to think that Amari Cooper could be better than Stephon Diggs? I mean, I guess at this point, why isn't it possible?
I think it's
And I'm trying to get
I
up.
think it's apples and oranges
I'm
for a
trying to
lot
get
of
up
different
Stephon Diggs'
reasons.
stats.
Yeah, Diggs was awesome for us. I mean, like a top 3 Bills receiver all time, and he was only here for 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah, and at
Like
his best, he was 1,500 yards.
how many Bills receivers you put ahead of Diggs all time if you're constructing an all-time franchise team, and you just include their Bills years.
No one. I mean, Stephon Diggs is easily top
You have
3.
Andre Reed is one. Then who's next? Molds, maybe. I mean,
Yeah, I
Lee
mean,
Evans had 3 good years with us, but I know he's a Hall of Famer, but most of his career is Green Bay.
in the modern era, I mean, so I can't speak for Billy Brooks and all those really good receivers from the 60s and 70s. I can't speak to those guys. I never watched them play.
Golden
Beane.
Wheels, Albert Beane in the 60s. Yeah. No, I'd put Diggs at
Two, right?
two or three. Like Molds might be, he had some really bad quarterbacks and he was highly productive. But that's it, right? After
I mean, I'd almost say at this point, if Stephon Diggs had stayed with the Bills and almost retired as a Bill, I mean, I might put him one over
Diggs,
Andre Reed. So, like, if not, I say he's 2A, 2B to Eric Molds, because when he was here, he was, I mean, you're right, Molds didn't have the best quarterbacks. And when he did finally get Drew Bledsoe, he made the most of it. But
and if you look at their whole careers, including non-Bills, Diggs, is more, you'd say Diggs is probably more successful than Molds. So number two, 2A. So 2 after Reed, right?
yeah. I'd say I was gonna say I'd put Diggs above Reed if he had spent like most of his career with Buffalo, if he was drafted by Buffalo and he spent most of his time here, because when he was good, I mean, he was the best receiver we've had since Molds, if not better than Molds. So yeah, that's tough. I mean, he's one of the best in Bill's history, and that's one of the reasons why that trade hurt so much at the time, is you're not going to replace that right away. And I'm not saying that the Bills will with Amari Cooper, but he has had success with not so great quarterbacks in the NFL. And we when the Bills signed Curtis Samuel this offseason, from the Commanders, we're like, this guy's gonna do better because he was this close to 1,000-yard receiving season with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator with the Panthers. And now he's got Joe Brady again. And we made all these justifications. Well, this guy's actually had that success with multiple quarterbacks. So like the ceiling that we thought, Curtis Samuel could have, like Amari Cooper has already had that.
I still like Curtis Samuel a lot, and I think that he could be that. I just don't think the Bills are using him right.
Me too. I'm with you. I still love Curtis Samuel. I think he can show more. They finally started to give him the ball this last week. They're finally listening to us, and I don't know why it's taken so long. I don't know why Mac Hollins is still taking so many more reps away from Curtis Samuel. But yeah, I agree. I'm still high on Curtis Samuel too. I'm still high on Keon Coleman. There's lots of potential. It just hasn't been tapped into yet. And I don't know if that's an injury standpoint, because I know Curtis Samuel had the turf toe before the season. And I know
I was wondering about that. That might be a part of the reason to a slow start. Yeah.
Well, he just popped up on the injury report this last week for that toe, and he hasn't since week 1. So you wonder, like, is it a re-aggravation, or were they just bypassing the injury report to not say that he was, he had an injury issue. So anyway, regardless of that, I think it's without a doubt, you now finally have a wide receiver 1 on the Buffalo Bills. Maybe, it's not to the Stephon Diggs level, but it's better than what you have by far. So you're trying to give your quarterback the best. I mean, the question is, like, how many games is it going to take for them to, kind of mold together and build some chemistry? Will it be within the first couple of weeks? Will it take till week 15 or 16? Will it not even happen this season?
Well, they're both really good veterans, so I would expect that it wouldn't take long. But think about the wide receivers in Josh Allen's career, just by name. This might be the second best one after Diggs, right?
I mean, who else is on that list? Are you talking like John Brown, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Kelvin Benjamin, Kelvin
Benjamin,
Kelvin the Popeyes Biscuit Benjamin? That just recently showed up on my timeline of that report when Josh Allen was a rookie and they had Kelvin Benjamin. He asked Kelvin Benjamin if he wanted to throw around pregame, and Kelvin Benjamin said no.
I saw that. Yeah.
That's just funny. Just a reminder of, yeah.
And then he ended up trying to be a tight end at the end of his career.
Yeah, with the Giants. Yeah. And then he's just like Booker said, one Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end. He actually went tight end. So, yeah, man, this was a lot of fun to talk about. Is there anything else that that you want to discuss, trade wise or value wise? I mean, this was such a cool. This doesn't happen that often where the Bills make a midseason trades. But last season, you're talking about the Rasul Douglas trade, which I still think was an amazing trade. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I
Yeah.
think Rasul Douglas is a great boundary corner for the team, and he picked up right where Tre'Davious left off. And to be honest, if Tre'Davious White was still here, I still think Douglas would be better than him, based on how we've seen Tre'Davious White play so far this season with the Rams. So love that move. Yeah, I think, and we're not even talking about next season. They might re-sign him, or they might extend him, or draft someone high with the first round pick, or trade up to draft another wide receiver and give Josh Allen more weapons. But they might end up liking him and extend him for a season or two. We'll see. But I mean, I love this trade. I don't know how you cannot get absolutely jacked up about the Bills getting a piece, being 4-2. Like, I could understand, John, I was thinking about this earlier. If the Bills went 3-3, I'd be like, okay, now they're in panic mode. Now they have to draft, or they have to trade for someone. Like, look at the Jets. They're 2-4, right? They trade for Devontae Adams. Does that really matter at this point? Is Aaron Rodgers pretty much the GM of that team? But at the same time, it's like the Bills are 4-2 and they're adding to their roster. So like maybe it went from like a 10-7 season to like 11-5, 12, or 11-6, 12-5 season because of the moves that they've made and the players that they're going to get back in a couple of months.
Yeah, it's week 6, 7, but they got stranglehold in the AFC East. 2.5 games on the Jets. They beat the Jets and the Dolphins. They're ahead of both teams. It was interesting when they traded for Adams. It's like, too little, too late. Whatever. They got other issues, and then the Bills got Cooper on the same day, and it's like, oh, okay, this is nice. The Bills aren't just like you said, they're not like resting on their laurels and like, oh no, 4-2 is good enough. No, they're trying to be better every step of the way. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good stretch where you give Amari Cooper the chance to acclimate to the offense, because the Bills are playing the Titans in Buffalo next Sunday. I mean, they're playing the Seahawks in Seattle, which isn't an easy game, but it's not nearly as tough of a game as it used to be in Seattle in a couple of weeks. And then after that, they're playing in Buffalo against the Dolphins. They're playing against the Colts in Indy. I mean, what of those games really truly scares you? Like they're all winnable games. And then they play the Chiefs in Buffalo the week after that. But before that, I mean, I want to say like just to give you an idea of the schedule that's left, John, I mentioned Titans, Seahawks, Dolphins, Colts, Chiefs, 49ers, Rams, Lions, Patriots, Jets, Patriots, Bears, Steelers. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I went into the preseason there. I'm sorry. Ends with the Patriots. So you're talking about the only games that scare me, that like really, or not scare me, but I'm like, ooh, that's gonna be a tough one, is the Chiefs before the bye, and then the 49ers in Buffalo. But it's in Buffalo. Oh, I'm sorry, in the Lions. Those are the three games that I'm just like,
When is the bye week?
The bye week is November 25th. No, 24th. Sorry. That's the week 12.
So between which of those games?
Oh, it's between the Chiefs and the 49ers. So it's a good time to have a bye before the 49ers.
That's pretty good time to have a bye. Yeah, so you have a bunch of cool, easy. I don't want to say easy because no NFL team is easy, but relatively easier games. And then you play the Chiefs. Hopefully they're not looking ahead of that game, but it is at home. The bye week before they go to San Francisco. Is that the case?
No, it's in Buffalo. Both games,
that's
the Chiefs and the 49ers game, are both in Buffalo.
All right. Yeah.
That's another thing with God.
No, it looks promising.
Is that a couple of weeks after the 49ers game, they do play the Lions in Detroit. That will be a tough game, I'm sure. So, but what's good is with that game that the Bills won last night, people can complain it was only 23-20. They should have beaten them by more, which I guess you could make an argument for minus the penalties. But they just played 3 straight games away against, two good teams and one halfway decent team. Like, that is no easy feat. So for them to come out with a win yesterday when it felt like it was going to be a loss, like, I mean, this is a high that I'm feeling right now for the team. This is like them trending in the best direction. Whereas, after the Texans gave, they're pretty much trending in the worst direction for me as a fan. But now they're absolutely trending upward with this trade, the win 4-2, and now they're going into an easier part of the schedule where of the 10 games left, I'm only and I just got let off. Sorry about that. Like unreal. I was just like all of a sudden it's like Skype is starting on my computer and all of a sudden I'm losing everything. So just goes to say, that's a sign we just got to end this episode. John,
Uh,
thanks so much for looking at the trade with me. Any final thoughts?
No, it's funny. I was like, texting Nate now. I don't know if it was me or him that messed up, but something happened. No, I feel good. It is curious, like if we had lost by a point instead of losing by 3, or I mean winning by 3. I mean, obviously the emotions and how you feel about the team probably would have been like that 4-point swing would have been huge. We'd be like tied with the Jets and not winning the division, right? Or is that
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Or
Yeah, they'd have been tied with the Jets.
yeah,
I don't know what the Jets divisional record is, but
but the head-to-head. So like it would have been. I think we'd be devastated right now to lose 3 in a row. So winning, no matter how we did, it's fine. It's great, and the defense looked great. Allen looked on point. The ref sucked. Bass sucked, but all in all, it was great. So I'm just looking forward to the next week. And a 1 o'clock game, so I don't have to stay up so late.
yeah, we got through our away stretch of games, and we also got through the 1 o'clock or the primetime games, which I got to be honest, like it's nice. It stinks staying up so late, and obviously we record after, so it is what it is. I'm not going to complain about that. But one thing I'll say, like on a positive, is I feel like I get so much more work done on the weekends, like at home, because there's absolutely. I mean, like I really don't. Besides checking my phone, I don't even watch football for the most part, just because I mean I'm doing other stuff, or we're like actually spending time as a family, which I'm like, this is weird to do on a Sunday. What's this? Actually
For
talk
sure.
to my children? Why would I do that? Cool, man. Well, thanks for talking the trade with me. Thanks for giving your thoughts on last night's game. Again, we're in a super great mood. I'm sure all of Bill's Mafia was. If you're feeling as good as me, hit us up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever Threads, whatever you use, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. Check us out there. We're at CTW Pod, like Circling the Wagons podcast. And yeah, thank you guys all for listening. Appreciate you guys being a part of the discussion last night, and let us know your thoughts. So for me, or for John, I'll sign you off first. For John,
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
you got it, buddy. And for me, Nate, the Bills not sitting on their laurels, like John said, being always trying to make moves and make this team better, always with the growth mindset. And we're seeing it. This might be the turning table of, like, how the Rams won a Super Bowl a few years ago when they traded everything, all their draft picks before the deadline. Maybe this is the Bills, Von Miller, sort of trade move to make the team better and make that deep run. Let's hope. Keep your fingers crossed. For me, Nate, go Bills, and we'll talk to you guys next week after the Titans game.